So friends, Vairji ka Khalsa, Vairji ka Fateh, Sat Kartar, Assalamu Alaikum. A very good evening to everyone here in India and South Asia. And a very good afternoon, is it? Jerzy in New York, is it? Already afternoon in New York. And a very good morning to everyone on the West Coast. This is the 82nd Mēlā or Baiṭhak of the YaarAnād Virtual Baithak Series. It's my pleasure to be in conversation with Dr. Jerzy Stryjniak. He is joining us from the conservatory that he has co-founded. It's called the New York Conservatory of Music, New York. And a couple of words about him. Jerzy Stryjniak is a leading Polish pianist and educator. He distinguished himself early in his career with a streak of victories, winning first prize at the 1983 Polish Piano Festival in Slupsk and the 1983 Frederic Chopin Scholarship Competition in Warsaw and the 1990 International Piano Competition hosted by Artists International. As winner of the Special Presentation Award, he played his sold-out debut at Carnegie's Weill Recital Hall and went on to serve as chairman of judges at the International Piano Competition in Connecticut 4 years later. Stryjniak has toured widely throughout North America, Europe, and the Middle East to great critical acclaim, presenting solo recitals and appearing in orchestral settings. Stryjniak is co-founder and president of the New York Conservatory of Music, as I mentioned, in Manhattan, where he works with a gifted group of young musicians as artists in residence. Stryjniak founded and serves as acting president of the Chopin Society of New York. He has recorded Chopin's complete oeuvre for piano for American Masters Recording and Management, and similarly recorded all of Liszt's piano works. A Fulbright recipient, he completed his PhD in 2008 and received a habilitation in 2014. Stryjniak is an awardee of the Member Cross of the Order of Merit of the Republic of Poland and the Gloria Artis Medal. Stryjniak, it is my pleasure really to welcome you to the YaarAnād Virtual Baithak Series. How are you?
I am very fine. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be with you today. Welcome all viewers from New York, from New York Conservatory of Music, from my studio when I teach and prepared most of the concert. Welcome everybody, once again.
And it's quite a journey, early time in Poland, and then your journey to New York. Tell us, how did it all begin? Why the piano, and how did it all begin?
I was born in Krakow, Poland, a beautiful city. Let me allow to describe a little the old capital of Poland, the city of culture around me from my early childhood. Everywhere around me was culture. The city also of the many great people. Among them, I can say about Ignacy Friedman, Joseph Hoffman, the greatest pianist in the history of pianism. Krzysztof Penderecki, incredible, probably the best modern composer who passed away recently, and Ignacy Paderewski, before he left to Switzerland, left very close by to Krakow. Also many Nobel literature, Nobel prizes like Wisłocka, Miłosz, and of course I have to mention about John Paul the second, Karol Wojtyła, and many others. Krakow, it's the old, how I said, city called sometimes Florence of the north, and built by Italian architectures. About my education, I have completed all of my youth academic studies in Krakow. I got my master degree with honors in piano performance at Krakow Academy of Music in 1984. How you mentioned, I moved to New York in 1990 after winning the Artists International competition. The Artists International is the management. It was the biggest management next to Columbia Artists, who organized this competition. For a winner, the first prize was debut in the most famous hall in the world, Carnegie Hall, and on June 2nd was sold out debut, and New York Times described my debut as a compelling, dazzling, and impressive. A few months later, I performed another historical for me concert, because it was during the centennial season of Carnegie Hall. And since then, I have performed at Carnegie Hall 17 times, as well as Lincoln Center, Kennedy Center, United Nations, and many other prestigious halls worldwide. How you mentioned also, I have published many recordings which are available on CD, online streaming platforms, and YouTube. And also recently I finished my DVD. It's 13 movies from New Steinway Hall. Mm-hmm. And also from Penderecki, this very famous composer from Lusławice. And it's the rest you said about me. And just I add, because you pronounce Dr. Hub is a
habilitation, yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. You are right. Habilitation is in Europe, probably your country. Yes, it's like in United States over a PhD. It's the highest scholar achievement.
Yeah, DLitt and DSc they have, two others. Yeah.
Yes, and this will be it about me. If somebody is interested to read more, I welcome to my website, www.stryjniak.com.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for that. Piano, of course, there's so much written, but you have. I have been amazed by the legend of Franz Liszt, and you have delved a lot into him. So I was particularly excited, waiting to be in conversation, to ask you, how did you end up choosing Franz Liszt? How did it come out? I mean, you're known to have a very particular relationship with his body of work in terms of phrases, original phrases. You had the fortune of learning from some of the direct line of masters who were student lineage of Franz Liszt. But how did you? What led you to him?
Yes. Why Franz Liszt? Ever since my youngest years, I was very sensitive to sound. Thus, music resonated deeper with me than words. And I would listen to Liszt during my childhood, and to be absolutely fascinated with all the variety of colors and sounds. Soon learning that these things are the two most important attributes in his music. After many years, when I began seriously studying his music, I learned that Liszt exclusively heard sound via color. Each tone would have an individual color. When creating a musical phrase, I imagined that he would envision a color palette in his mind and paint using the keyboard as his canvas.
Fantastic.
It is said that he had a near superhuman ability to hear and one of the best in history of music. Another thing which encouraged me to him, another factor which characterizes Liszt's sound is the inspiration he drew from the human voice, especially the Italian tenor. Bel canto means in English beautiful singing. I will present soon his one of the beautiful composition, very famous, which I will present what I mean about this sound. Therefore, we can now understand what kind of sound Liszt expected: a sound full of color, longevity, and wealth. Another critical thing which captivated me from the start was the amount of emotion Liszt poured into his works, which targets the performer and listener in the most perfect manner. Lastly, he was one of the biggest pianists of all time, obviously king of the piano. He inspired me heavily with this pianism, and as a result, I decided to pursue this passion.
I see. So tell us, that's very interesting. How do you? I'm of course addressing to the idea of color and sound. How beautiful was it for me to hear that for him the keyboard was as if his canvas and he was basically painting. What is the idea of color in music? Can you share some of your thoughts with regards to color?
Yes, each tonation has a completely different sound, and it's very unique to hear sound by color. And for example, B minor in his opinion was a dark blue color, and because it's not a coincidence that Liszt pick up the special key, for example, B minor, his greatest work, B minor, because he saw this composition in this particular color. And of course, Liszt loved the contrast and to put very dark black color on the beautiful dark white yellow colors, which you will see in Consolation. I would like to say what kind of impact had Liszt to me, how I decided to be a pianist. I decided to become a concert pianist at the age of 17. I was in music high school, and I won a national competition in Poland, playing among other works Liszt, very famous La Campanella. To this day, I continue to play his works as at a concert. In fact, I have played full-length recitals and tribute to this composer. Most importantly, you see a poster behind me. It's original poster from Lincoln Center.
Yes.
When I played full-length recital to tribute to this composer, commemorating his 200th anniversary at Lincoln Center, to play obviously entire recital by Liszt, it's not easy thing. And also I played in Kennedy Center. I played his sonata B minor. I mentioned about this over 100 times, or all over the world, as well as recorded many of his works. And Franz Liszt and Frederic Chopin, fantastic Polish composer, pianist, are two composers whom I hold closest to my heart. But also I played obviously as a pianist works by Beethoven, Brahms, Schumann, Rachmaninoff, and more. And probably now, before I say more about Liszt, because I describe his sound and expression, this romantic style, maybe would be nice now to present one of Liszt's most charming works, his Consolation Number 3, in D flat major. A piece not only filled with beauty but also hope and optimism, which we need so much.
I was in fact about to request you to play that, what you won at age 17, if you can play that as well. But yes, let's start from this. We'll come to that. Yes. Wow.
It was example of what I mentioned about this beautiful many palette of colors, and I enjoy a lot to play this piece. And this piece also was favorite piece of Horowitz. He always played.
Eye-watering, really.
This yes, piece on the anchor. Yes, it was his favorite composition. Now maybe allow me to say something about him as a person, as a composer, like a few words about his biography.
Before we go there, Jerzy, I felt something, and I thought I'll share this with you. I was amazed at the idea that from a note to another, I could see fluidity, that you're able to weave, there's a horizontal movement.
Absolutely.
That is fascinating for me to see. Otherwise it's a note and another. It's as if you're kneading, it's like you're working also with, let's say with colors, you're mixing them and then straining something out and taking another place. It's fantastic. I mean, how this composition is woven. The notes are woven as if a necklace. That was very powerful, very powerful.
You beautifully described that, and as you know, Chopin has a huge impact on Liszt, and they met in 1831 in Paris, and Chopin always said to his students, and we know that how he taught students, that phrase is like the water.
I see.
No angles. And water fills in each shape. When you put to glass, it will be like glass. If you put in the bottle, it will be like bottle. And obviously, Chopin's poetry and profound philosophy had incredible impact for Liszt. And obviously, Liszt also had impact for Chopin. I will present later on Chopin etudes, which Chopin dedicated to Liszt and said to on the public, to friends, I wish to play my etude like Franz is playing. Obviously, those two composers were in the history the greatest pianist and composer for the piano. And this is the reason that as a pianist I have to obviously they must be my beloved also. But you describe absolutely beautiful this horizontal phrasing, like singing. Absolutely, and it was absolutely. But to do this, you have to have special kind of sound, very long. And what I said about this, that color in sound, longevity and wealth. This is the most important. And for your interest for Chopin, also human voice was the biggest inspiration.
I see.
But Italian soprano for Liszt, tenor, Italian tenor. And it was the different, but it was very nice.
It's almost like to achieve that you have to awaken the soul, as if of Liszt. and then to be the mother, to be the father, and to be the child and play with that soul, with the intent. I think it's unless you do that, one cannot really taste it. One cannot really. It's like drowning. It's like awakening the ocean and diving right in and being the fish and cherishing that.
Absolutely, I agree. I agree with you. Allow me to say some few words about Liszt as a person. It was not only great pianist, virtuoso, superstar, composer, but with very huge heart. And he was born October 22nd, 1811, 1 year later than Chopin, in a very small city, Doborian. It's Austria-Hungary Empire. He was the Hungarian composer, but what is interesting, he never speaks Hungarian, and he died in Bayreuth, Bavaria, Germany, from pneumonia. But his mother, Austrian lady, Anna, father Adam, who was the biggest impact for young Liszt, because he was amateur cello player, and obviously for young Liszt, the Adam was the very big inspiration. Fortunately, Liszt's father worked as a secretary for Prince Esterházy, and Esterházy was a first sponsor of Liszt, and they moved to Vienna with Liszt and his father Adam to study. And Liszt was fortunate that he studied piano under the Karl Czerny. Karl Czerny, every pianist knows, is famous of his etudes and exercises, so many. And what is interesting that Karl Czerny was a pupil of Beethoven. A very great great composer in classical period, and composition he studied under Antonio Salieri. Antonio Salieri, everybody knows this person through the movie by Milos Forman, Amadeus.
Yes, of course.
And what else about him? Liszt's father died very soon, when Liszt was 15 years of age. In very young age, he married Countess Marie de Gaulle. Countess Marie de Gaulle, which Chopin dedicated Opus 25 of etudes to her. And Liszt had 3 children. The very famous one was Cosima. She was born in Como, Italy. And later on, she married a very famous composer, Richard Wagner.
Wagner, yes.
Yeah, and in 1847, Liszt concertized in Kiev, Russia, and met Polish prince Caroline Wittgenstein, and their relationship led him to focus more on composition.
Yes, I was in fact very intrigued by that. That at that time, we are talking about middle of the 19th century, and the idea that performance at that time was those who were present could witness it, could hear it, see the spectacle, and those who could write what they had witnessed. That's how it was. But then for that princess to inspire him to outlive his self, his body, was to focus on writing. That was, I think, one of the most moving parts of the story of Franz Liszt that impressed me. The vision of that princess. That forget about, that's wonderful, the spectacle, the performer, Franz Liszt, but write. And if he had not written, we wouldn't know much of him, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it was, of course, she wanted to be with him more, and they settled in Weimar, 1848, and he mostly focused on composition. Most of his greatest pieces were composed there in Germany. I was 12 times in Weimar because I try to in the past follow him and to know him more, and I visited many times his Oldenburg villa. I played on his Bechstein piano.
I
lie down on his bed. I wash my face from his vase. And 3 in the morning I played like for 2 or 3 hours. Of course, I had to pay some security to do this, because it wasn't easy, but for me it was so important. And of course, Liszt wanted to marry this Polish beautiful prince, Caroline Wittgenstein, but church.
I know the Pope and the Russians. Yeah, they did. The Tsar got in between. Yeah, I know.
Exactly. Yeah. And they lived without marriage. And in 1870 he was appointed as a professor at the Royal Academy of Music in Budapest, and in 1875 he became president of this academy. And of course, he invented a form of recital that you play recited without score. He invented also master classes for many students, because it was so many pianists who wanted to study under him, and it was impossible to make individual lessons.
How many can you teach?
Yes. Also, he invented this angle of the piano and stage that you see.
Yes.
And since that time, pianists played by heart, and he was huge impact for pianists, and everybody obviously played that. And in the final years were shared between live in Bayreuth, Budapest, and Rome. Few words about his essential piano works, because of course he composed.
I was, in fact, if I may, so that you, when you share with us your thoughts, I see that there are phases in his life. The first is when he is like the virtuoso, the mega star and dazzle and spectacle. And then his journey towards the last phase, when he is perhaps earn the value of every single note that he touches, as if he doesn't want to leave it. And he wants to remain there for as long as he could before he ventured into another. There's sort of minimal idea, but I find it that he's become finally a jeweler of every single note, as I was talking the other day. So yes, I mean, please tell us. I see it like that. Different phases of his life, his composer towards the end, but take us through his, as you said, essential piano.
You are absolutely right, and my habilitation book about Liszt was also about his B minor sonata. He's the biggest work on piano, and I had chance to study its score
or phrases. Actually,
score in library Morgan Library in New York, because this manuscript is there, and it was like Bible or something, that the biggest treasure, that is security above it, everything. And I saw many colors, his marks, red, blue, this, that, how hard work he put to make this each note in this very long piece, very valuable. And it's absolutely incredible experience. And in my book, I describe everything what I saw, and after that, I played, how I mentioned, over 100 times worldwide this piece. And obviously, to characterize Liszt, Franz Liszt best known for his virtuoso composition, which are amongst the most technically challenging in the repertoire. And how I mentioned, I have to say about his sonata B minor, which is one of the greatest. Liszt played this sonata in 32 minutes. I made 2 recordings, live from Carnegie and also in studio recording, and everybody who wants to listen, welcome on my YouTube
Your YouTube channel. Yeah, I subscribe myself, and I would invite everybody to do that.
Studio without any editing, and this is for me treasure, because also it was recording from the centennial season of Carnegie Hall. Also, he technically most challenging pieces are obviously his etudes. He composed 12 transcendental etudes, Paganini Liszt, 6. He was so inspired by
Paganini.
Yes, he was up to 1831. He was superstar, but when he heard him with Chopin in November 1831, how he played, he practiced, he increased hours of practicing up to 8-10 hours daily. 8-10 hours daily. Can you imagine what impression was after Paganini concert? That he, as a superstar, for many considered as a bigger star than Paganini. He started practice, he doubled the hours of practicing. And it was incredible inspiration, not only for Liszt, who composed who practiced a lot and composed 6 etudes on the theme of Paganini with this famous La Campanella, but also for Chopin, that he composed also etudes and other virtuoso pieces. Next, very famous 19 Hungarian rhapsodies. Liszt also arranged transcription for orchestra, piano duet, and piano trio. Obviously, the second Rhapsody, it's the most famous inspiration to compose this was gypsy, obviously music. And also I recommend my recording with the longest cadenza composed by Sergei Rachmaninoff. It's very rare thing, and it's very nice. Next form I have to mention it's 4 Mephisto waltzes. The first one is the most famous. The waltzes are named after the devil Mephisto. It's old German legend. Next 2 or even 3 piano concerto. The most famous E flat first major and second A major, and it would be in general describing of Liszt as a person, Liszt and as a composer. Of course, I mentioned that he was incredible, huge heart. He helped a lot of composers, like Wagner. He promoted their music, like Wagner, Berlioz, Brahms, who visit him with Joseph Joachim in Weimar, 1853, in the time when Liszt finished this huge sonata. And now, probably before I play some, because I present work of Liszt, maybe it's time to present some work of Chopin, because...
Yeah, but before we go there, before we go to Chopin, I think that there are a couple of things I would like to speak about. One would be that I really want to go to the 17-year-old Jerzy who won that competition in Warsaw. I want to hear what you played then. I'm not letting go of you. When you mentioned when you were in the school, the music school, you were 17, yes, that's one. So I want to hear what you played. So you're not escaping. You cannot escape. The other is, coming to Franz Liszt, what I like about the phenomena, about him, the legend, that when he's young, he has the capacity within him to be in awe of Chopin, of Paganini, that he says, whoa, wow, like that. That's quite a capacity. To be moved, to be in a space where someone extraordinary can actually touch you, can inspire you, and not you're in jealousy or you're frightened and freaked out and so on and so forth. The way I see that he's moved in the right manner, one. But then when he has become the living legend, the mega star, and he's moved past, I am amazed by the conversation he is able to have with the younger generation. So he is... the way he sees the elders and the way he sees the future. I think for me, Franz Liszt is one of the very few masters who has been able to weave with the past and help weave the future and celebrate the present. I see him like that. I don't know if I'm wrong, but this is what amazes me about him.
Of course, you are not. Of course, you are not wrong, because he was a visionary, and we obviously in his music we hear impressionism, and it's obvious in his late composition. But definitely Liszt had huge impact for future music and for future composer. Obviously, he had a lot of students who share his school with future pianist, and it's great to read about him. For example, the most knowledgeable person about Liszt is Dr. Alan Walker. Dr. Alan Walker was leading my Liszt concert in Lincoln Center, Kennedy, and I learned from him a lot. He wrote like 13 books about Liszt. He knows everything about him, and he said that he was one of the greatest and biggest impact for music. About my younger age, when I took part in the competition, yes, I was 17, and you have to remember that it was many years ago, and to play in this age, when I was in second grade on the high music school, it was a big challenge. Nobody expected that, and I played that, and not so badly. I remember my first standing ovation, and what is so interesting that all Poland after competition was trying to play this composition. And I never forget this, that I was prepared for a winner concert as a recital, and I heard in working piano studios, everyone tried to play this campanella. Means that I had also some impact for others, that maybe I inspired to study more about him.
That's fantastic. Why don't you play what you played then?
Yes, yes. And after that
then we come to Chopin.
Yes, and about Chopin, I mentioned that it was a very close friend to Liszt. Liszt helped him a lot because Chopin emigrated in 1830 to Paris. And I will play like a few pieces. Maybe first revolutionary etude written in November 1831, dedicated to his friend Franz Liszt upon the conclusion of Poland's failed revolution against Russia. And it's very powerful, but maybe before this etude, how I said, it's dedicated to Franz Liszt, and it's like bridge between Liszt and Chopin. But before maybe a revolutionary etude, it's you can call, I am going to play Nocturne C sharp minor opus 20 posthumous, composed in 1830, dedicated to his older sister Ludwika, as an exercise before she started playing Chopin's second F minor concerto. And you see many elements from the second movement and third movement of this F minor concerto. And, after Liszt consolation, I would like to present the same romantic style in this Italian bel canto.
I see.
Let me play first this nocturne, and after that I will try to
Sure, that's looking forward. That's fantastic. Yeah.
And one thing more, it's very famous nocturne. If anyone saw a movie by Roman Polanski, Pianist, about what is Spielmann, this is like the motto of this movie.
Yeah. And before you begin, my apologies to interrupt. Tell us about the piano that you have. I know that's a Steinway. What are you playing on? What is the instrument that you've chosen to play, share with us today?
It's a great model of the best brand, Steinway and Sons. We have like two branches of Steinway.
Yeah.
How I mentioned, it's the best brand in the world. One is in Hamburg, Germany. Yeah. One is in New York. Yeah. And this particular beautiful mahogany piano is Model B, my favorite one. And I am going to play on this. And this piano is in my studio.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you, and it's also a beautiful example of romantic style, this sound, bel canto, and I think that it's one of my favorite nocturnes, and
Fantastic.
I recently recorded in Steinway hall the place of these beautiful instruments in New York, and of course everyone can visit and see. Now what I mentioned about revolutionary attitude, about a little contrasting piece, more virtuoso, full of drama, because as you know, Chopin was a huge patriot, and when he got this information about falling of Polish uprising against Russia, he composed this very powerful and composition. Let me present this piece. Beautiful etudes, and it's what I said about this uprising, full of emotion and meaning, very profound meaning. And I encourage everyone to watch our next mutual episode, where I will dive deeper into everything Frederic Chopin related.
But before we go there, if I may, sorry for the interruption, but it's again to do with this piece. I know that you also had some difficulty in the 80s vis-a-vis the then communist rule, the sort of oppression of the Polish people, and I'm aware of that. I'm also very closely, very intimately linked. I never met him, but I've had very dear friends who've studied with him, with Pablo Casals. Um,
Hmm.
and and Franz Liszt, who is also very, very sort of close to the soil and has a passion and a heart, which is with his native land. Uh, is that the drive? Is it? I mean, your sort of you know sort of views for your country, for your people, and that somehow reverberates with Franz Liszt's love. Is it somehow that we are able to see similar passion, similar dedication, similar romance, if I may, with the idea of Franz Liszt, as is similar with Pablo Casals and of course my bloodline too. There is something else than a mere musician, something more. It's music with all its virtuosity, with all its complexity, with all its achievements that there are. But then there is something else, something that is music and something more. Is that the key? Is that a way to look at it? Would that be improper, or would that be?
Yes, yes. The music is very powerful, and as you know, during the Second World War, the music, for example, of Chopin in Poland was prohibited.
Yes.
Schumann said that it's weapons under the roses, and and music is powerful when and Chopin and Liszt was very huge patriot. And how I said, the most of the composition is around country. In Liszt's case, it's about Hungary, 19 Hungarian rhapsodies, this gypsy music, and Chopin polonaises, mazurkas, etudes, and everything. It's around his love to his country, and it's absolutely very powerful. And from the other side, when Warsaw was bombarded by German Nazis, the pilots had Wagner Tannhäuser on the headphones, and it's I always look in music for meaning, for profound meaning, and
Yeah.
it's really treasure.
Yeah. And at the time when so much of music was destroyed, instruments were destroyed. I was in Poznan. I went to see all that was, and Shaslav, of course, was sharing with me plenty the kind of destruction of culture that was done. And I've personally been at the receiving end when all my conservation work, instruments have been destroyed by the police now. And 2 years ago, on the 13th of March 2018, 33 years of the only attempt at revival and to usher in an era of cultural resurgence and renaissance. How even that frightens the idea of sovereignty, of an individual, that you must live only as a subject, that freedom cannot be, you cannot have wings, that you must only, even if you are outside, but you must walk as if you're caged. I don't know what it is. What leads men and women to that height, that you have World War II pilots listening to Wagner who are oblivious of the fact that Franz Liszt and Wagner had an intimate relationship, but they are using it to Ignorance, isn't it? Ignorance is so sad.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Yeah, obviously in this tragic, we mentioned about Second World War, tragic situation. The culture is a hope for a better future. If you don't keep it, this culture, you lose everything.
And you're killing a civilization. The attempt to destroy culture is because a people derive their dignity from it. They derive their honor from it. They derive their meaning. It is the relationship with the harvest of their ancestors. It is the soul of their ancestors. And when you destroy, why does UNESCO or the United Nations call it a crime against humanity? It's because you're killing humanity with it. When you destroy culture, look at what was happening in Syria, in places where, or in the ISIS were destroying, ancient sites, archaeological sites. It's people don't understand what the value that that every heritage is human heritage. That you cannot single out that this is theirs. It cannot be my heritage or your heritage. It is our heritage. Humanity. We are humanity. It's a collective idea. It is a charisma of the collective, and yet people commit crimes by destroying, because in the hand of ignorance, they think they are destroying a people. They're destroying a truth from living. They are disenfranchising truth, for example. They're disenfranchising honor and dignity. It's very unfortunate, but that's how it is.
Beautiful words. I agree in everything you said. Yes, I agree with that. Absolutely.
So let's now take us to Chopin. Oh, sorry. Yes, to Chopin. Tell us about him and some of the works that you will be playing. Yes.
For the end, I would like to present very small piece dedicated to the Countess Delfina Potocka, popularly known in English as the Minute Waltz, in French known as Waltz of the Little Dog. Chopin composed this waltz in 1947. It's and will be my last piece.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
Small, I mean, it's like jeweler's work, isn't it? Small spaces and the kind of...
We have to operate by very crisp articulation. Yes, exactly. And more Chopin, of course, hopefully when we meet next time. Yes. And we can have a chance.
I'm gonna have to have several meetings, not just one or two, because I want to dedicate one. Because you, as a pedagogue, you know, you didn't have to do. You don't have to, as a concert pianist, as a successful one who's had sold out, you know, shows in some of the top venues. You could have just been a performer, but yet you've chosen to share knowledge. And I see again a trait of Franz Liszt as the next generation, conversations with the next generation. How do you? You're also a gardener, if I may. So at least one or two sessions will do as you as a pedagogue. I think after we've done, because Chopin is one, but then there are other composers who, upon, you know, that you've you know, really worked a lot and thought about a lot. It'll be great if we can cover them as our itinerary, your itinerary and my itinerary, whenever we can match our times. That would be fantastic.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me once again, and thank you for invitation, and hopefully we'll meet
soon. Yeah, maybe in a week's time or 10 days. Yeah. I've in fact always wanted to come by, but my visits to New York have been very quick, just like that, and I've not been able to call upon. Last year I was there, but I was just totally caught up with my own teaching and my you know, little writing that I was doing. I've always been glued to my desk. Don't go out. Yes, but I look forward to see you in the near future as well. But of course, we continue our conversation in a few days.
You have open invitation. Thank you so much to you and all viewers, and see you.
They all send you greetings, and we'll meet very shortly. Thank you so much, Jerzy, for taking time out. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
So दोस्तों, this was my conversation. मेरी वार्ता सीखी विद्वान पियानो वादक और चिंतक डॉक्टर यजय स्ट्राइनियक ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ बहुत ही ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕਹੀਏ ਕਿ ਸਮਝਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਮੈਂ ਦੇਖਦਾ ਹੁੰਨਾ ਕਿ ਵੱਡੇ ਲੋਕ ਉਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਜਾਇਆ ਕਰਦੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਕੁਝ ਵੱਡੀਆਂ ਬਾਤਾਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਸ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਨਜਿੱਠੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕੁਝ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਵੱਡਾ ਤੱਕਿਆ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕੁਝ ਵੱਡੇ ਦੇਖੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਵੱਡਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਵਾਦ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕੋਈ ਵੱਡੀ ਸੋਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਝੋਲੀ ਪੈ ਗਈ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਪੈਂਡੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਗਾਂ ਦੁਆਰ ਖੋਲ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਖੜ ਗਏ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਆ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਤੁਰਨਾ ਸਿਖਾਈਏ ਆ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਠੁੱਡਾਂ ਖਾ ਕੇ ਮੂੰਹ ਪਾਰ ਗਿਰਨਾ ਸਿਖਾਈਏ ਆ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਕੁਛ ਦਿਖਾਈਏ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਫ੍ਰਾਂਜ਼ ਲਿਸਟ ਵਰਗੇ ਫਿਨੋਮੀਨਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਜਾਇਆ ਕਰਦੇ ਔਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਵੱਡਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਲੱਛਣ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਸੰਵਾਦ ਦਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੁਰੂਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਦੇਖੋ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਥਾਲ ਵਿੱਚੇ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਵਸਤੂ ਪਈ ਉਹ ਸੱਤ ਸੰਤੋਖ ਵਿਚਾਰੋ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਦਾ ਕੌਨਸੈਪਟ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਹੈ ਖਿਆਲ ਕਿ ਕੰਟੈਂਪਲੇਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੇਦ ਕਤੇਬ ਕਹੋ ਹੋ ਮਤ ਝੂਠੇ ਝੂਠਾ ਜੋ ਨ ਵਿਚਾਰੇ ਅਗੇਨ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸੋਚ ਫਿਕਰ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਸੂਝ ਤੇ ਬੂਝ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਇੱਕ ਉਹੀ ਭਰਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੈ ਕੇ ਚੱਲ ਮੇਰੇ ਭਾਈ ਵਾਲੇ ਭੇਡ ਚਾਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਭੇਡਾਂ ਤੁਰੀਆਂ ਜਾ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਤੁਰਨ ਲੱਗ ਪਓ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਉਹ ਸਿਆਣਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਵੱਡਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਲੱਛਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਉਹ ਬੌਣਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕਹੀਏ ਸ਼ਰਾਪ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀਆਂ ਹਸਤੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖਦਾ ਫ੍ਰਾਂਜ਼ ਲਿਸਟ ਵਰਗਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਮੈਂ ਪਾਬਲੋ ਕਸਾਲਸ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਕਿਹਾ ਉਹ ਕੁਝ ਸੰਗੀਤ ਤੋਂ ਅੱਡ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕੁਝ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਵਰ ਉਹੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੱਕ ਵੱਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡਾ ਪੰਡਤ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਗਿਆਨ ਦਾ ਉਸ ਗਿਆਨ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਲਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਪਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੱਕ ਸਰਲ ਵਿਅੰਗ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਵੱਡਾ ਕੁਦਰਤਨ ਤੁਹਾਡਿਓਂ ਲਾਗੇ ਆਂਦੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਕੁਝ ਕਹਿ ਗਿਆ ਹੋਵੇ ਕੁਝ ਫਰਮਾ ਗਿਆ ਹੋਵੇ ਕੁਝ ਜਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਹੋਵੇ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ उस इजहार दे विच ही तुसीं कुछ पा जांदे हो, कुछ वड्डा पा जांदे हो, या कोई वड्डी संभावनावां दा एक जिहनूं कहिए ओढ़क है, यानी कि कंबल है, वो तुहाडे पै जांदा है। तुसीं फिर ਉਹਨੂੰ बुणदे रहिंदे हो, ਉਹਨੂੰ रंगदे रहिंदे हो हौली हौली, तुहानूं पता नहीं लगता कि की होया सी, कित्थों ਉਹ हवा आई सी, कित्थों ਉਹ एक पॉलन आंदा तुहाडे जाग ला गया सी को। ये काबिले गौर है जिन्हों मैं समझदा। यजी स्त्रीनियक विद्वान वादक हैगा, ये भी कल्ला सिर्फ संगीतकार नहीं है, चिंतक है। ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ बगावत भी भरी हुई है, ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ अपने वतन प्रति, अपनी कौम प्रति एक इश्क भरिया होया है। वो सिर्फ अपने आप नाल ही इश्क नहीं करता, अपनी लोकाई दे नाल भी इश्क करता है। तो उही जिहड़ा सुर है जदों छाउंदा है, ਉਹਦੇ 'ਚ कुछ होर ਉਹ पा जाता है। ये ਉਹ गहरे खूह ने, जद तक तुहाडे कोल पहुँच ना होवे, तुसीं उस विचों अमृत भर के जाम पिला नहीं सकते, ना पी सकते हो। सो ये जिहड़ी वारता है, इहनूं एवें ना लै जाओ कि खौरे एक पियानिस्ट आया तो उतों असीं कोई गाना बजाना सुन लिया। असीं सुनते हैं पियानो में भी बड़ा सुनिया है, पर एक कल्ला पियानो नहीं है जी। ये पियानो तो एक रनवे सी जिथों एक वड्डा चालक अपनी उड़ान भर के किते लै जांदा होवे। ये बहाना हुंदा है कि तुसीं किसी चित्रकार नूं देख रहे हो, तुसीं आर्टिस्ट प्रेम सिंह होना दियां गाथा देखो, वो अज दे काल च ही देख लो, कोरोना वायरस ते किवें वो चित्रकारी कर रहा है। तुसीं रघु राय दी तस्वीर विच देख सकते हो, तुसीं अविनाश पसरीचा दे, तुसीं बंदीप दे लेंस दे जरिए देख सकते हो, तुसीं पार्थिव शाह दे लेंस, अमित मेहरा दे लेंस, किन्नियां दा मैं नाम गिनावां, तुसीं मेरे लेंस चों भी देख सकते हो कुछ। तुसीं सिद्धार्थ जो गंगा वल देखता है, वो की देख रहा है? वो सिर्फ एक गंगा की गाथा, एक गंगोत्री तो लैके ब्रह्मपुत्र तक नहीं कुछ दस रहा है। वो रंगा तो हट के है, रंगा तो वध के है। वो एक मदन गोपाल सिंह बैठा गा रहा, वो क्यों गा रहा बैठा? उन्होंने की लोड़ है? उन्हें इन्ना गाना सुनिया है कि वो चुप भी धार के वो जो सुनिया है उसे नूं सुनी जा सकता है। वो मन नूं गुलाम बना सकता है कि तू भाई हुण रिकॉर्ड वजाई जा जो सुनिया सी। ये कुछ बात है, वो बात समझण दी लोड़ है। वो मनमोहन बाबा जड़ा पहाड़ियां जा रहा है, पेंसिल लैके लकीरां वाई जा रहा है, वो की सी? वो मनजीत बाबा ढोलक बजा रहा है, वो की है? वो कल्ला सिर्फ गाना नहीं है। मैं कदे तो देखा ही नहीं कदे नहीं देखा। सो ये जिहड़े विद्वान हनगे, मेरा संवाद इन्हां नाल इस करके है कि इन्हां दे विच कुछ होर संभावना है। ये सिर्फ जिवें अष्टावक्र कहता है ना कि ये तां ब्राह्मणां दी सभा नहीं सी, ये तो जिहड़े चमड़ी मेरी चमड़ी वाल देख के जो व्यापार करते हैं उन्हां दी सभा सी। ये ब्राह्मण नहीं सन, उन्होंने ब्रह्म नहीं पछाणिया, मेरा चम देखिया। तो जिहड़ा चम दा व्यवहार करता है उसनूं पुराने वेले उस चम दे नाल काम कर उन्हूं चमार कहते सी। चम दा जिहड़ा व्यापार करे, चम दा जिहड़ा सौदा करे, उसनूं तैयार करे, उसनूं बचाउणा किवें, एवें नहीं सी काम। कहंदा ये तां ब्रह्म तां देखिया नहीं है। ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਨੂੰ पता लगता है कि ये अर्थ की है कि एक नवतेज सिंह बैठा नृत्य कर रहा, की लोड़ है उन्होंने नृत्य करने दी, कुछ और कर लेंदा पर वो जो नृत्य कर रहा है ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ गां की है, की वो पा रहा है। इसे तरह थिएटर ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਨਗੇ लोग, फिल्मां ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਨਗੇ कि एक आम है लोगों की एक विक्री करन लई, एक मंडीकरण वास्ते तुसी फिल्म बनाउंदे हो। एक तुसी वो माध्यम नूं वरतदे हो कुछ दस्सण लई, कुछ इजहार करन लई, कुछ जताउण लई, कोई सच जगाउण लई। कोई तो है चिराग साडे विच बुझिया होया जिसनूं कोई एक वड्डा जिहड़ा वादक है ਉਹ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਬੈਠਾ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਕਿ ਹੇ ਬੁਝਿਆ ਦੀਵਿਆ ਬਲ ਪੈ ਜਗ ਪੈ। ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਲੋਕਾਈ ਨੂੰ, ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ, ਰੱਬ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੁਝੇ ਦੀਵੇ, ਭਰਮ ਦੇ ਚਾਦਰ ਓੜ ਬੈਠੇ ਦੀਵੇ ਜਰਾ ਨੰਗੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਣ, ਜਰਾ ਸ਼ਰੇਆਮ ਆਣ ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਤਾਂ ਠੰਡ ਪਾਉਣ। ਸੋ ਦੋਸਤੋ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਸ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵਾਰਤਾ ਸੀ ਮੇਰੀ, ਮੈਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗਾਂ ਦੀ ਉਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਕੇ ਗਿਆ, ਮੈਂ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ। ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਬੜਾ ਮਜ਼ਾ ਸੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਿਹਾ ਸਾਂ, ਸੁਣ ਰਿਹਾ ਸਾਂ। ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਵੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜਾ ਰੋਬਰਟੋ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੇਦਾ ਦੇ ਸਿਲਸਿਲੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਉਹ ਮੈਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਾਂ, ਪਰ ਉਹ ਸੌਫਟਵੇਅਰ ਮੈਂ 7-8 ਘੰਟੇ ਲਾਏ ਨੇ, ਉਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਿਆ ਦੋਸਤੋ। ਅਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਥੋੜ੍ਹਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਨਿਰਾਸ਼ ਵੀ ਸਾਂ ਕਿ ਕਾਸ਼ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਕੁਛ ਬੈਟਰ ਕੁਛ ਕਰ ਗਿਆ ਹੁੰਦਾ। ਸੋ ਲਿਹਾਜ਼ਾ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਦੱਸ ਦਿਆਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ, ਬੜੇ ਹੀ ਮੇਰੇ ਅਜ਼ੀਜ਼ ਪਿਆਰ ਵਾਲੇ ਸੀ। ਖੈਰ ਬੜਾ ਚਿਰ ਹੀ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਮਿਲਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ, ਪਰ ਉੱਦਾਂ ਕਦੇ ਕਦੇ ਗੱਪਸ਼ਪ ਕਰ ਲਈ ਦੀ ਹੈ। ਉਸਤਾਦ ਰਜ਼ਾ ਅਲੀ ਖਾਂ, ਉਸਤਾਦ ਮੁਰੱਬਰ ਅਲੀ ਖਾਂ ਰੂਪ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਪੁੱਤਰ ਹਨਗੇ। ਉਸਤਾਦ ਬੜੇ ਗੁਲਾਮ ਅਲੀ ਖਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪੋਤੇ ਹਨਗੇ। ਉਸਤਾਦ ਬਰਕਤ ਅਲੀ ਖਾਂ, ਕਿਆ ਬਾਤ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਠੁਮਰੀ ਦੀ, ਜੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਹਿਣ ਦੀ ਅਦਾ ਸੀ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਗ੍ਰੈਂਡ ਨੈਫਿਊ ਹਨਗੇ। ਮੈਂ ਕੀ ਨਾਂ ਲਵਾਂ। ਪਟਿਆਲੇ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਗਾਉਣ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਿਲਸਿਲਾ ਹੈ, ਸਾਡਾ ਖਾਨਦਾਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜਾ ਪਟਿਆਲਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਖਾਨਦਾਨ ਰਿਹਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬਹੁਤ ਗਹਿਰਾ ਅਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਪੁਰਾਣਾ ਸੰਵਾਦ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਉਸ ਘਰਾਣੇ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਕੰਟਰੀਬਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਆਰਟਸ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਮੇਰਾ ਸੰਵਾਦ ਰਾਜਾ ਮਰਗਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਰਿਹਾ। ਮੇਰਾ ਇੱਟ ਕੁੱਤੇ ਦਾ ਵੈਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ, ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਲੜਾਈਆਂ ਬੜੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਸੀ, ਪਰ ਮੈਂ ਦੱਸਦਿਆਂ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕੰਟਰੀਬਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਪਟਿਆਲੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਮਹੰਤ ਗੱਜਾ ਸਿੰਘ ਹੋਣੀ ਰਹੇ, ਵੱਡੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਵਿਦਵਾਨ ਰਹੇ। ਮੇਰੇ ਪੜਚਾਚਾ ਬਾਬਾ ਜਵਾਲਾ ਸਿੰਘ ਹੋਣਾ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜਾ ਭੁਪਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਤਾਲੀਮ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਰਹੇ। ਭਾਈ ਕਾਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਨਾਭਾ, ਭਾਈ ਅਰਦਮਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਬਾਗੀਆਂ, ਸਾਰੇ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਸਿੱਖਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸਨ ਪੁਰਾਣੇ ਪਦੇ ਧਰੁਪਦੇ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਉਸ ਰਾਜ ਘਰਾਣੇ ਦੀ ਕਹਿ ਲਓ, ਉਸ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕੰਟਰੀਬਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਸੰਗੀਤ ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਅੱਜ ਵੀ ਰਾਜਾ ਰਣਧੀਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਹਨਗੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਕਸ਼ਰ ਹਨਗੇ। ਉਹ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕਹੀਏ ਰਾਗ ਤਾਲ ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਹੁੰਦੀ, ਥੋੜ੍ਹੀ ਬਹੁਤੀ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ, ਸਮੇਂ ਸਭ ਬਿਜ਼ੀ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ, ਦਿੱਲੀ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਹੈ ਲੇਕਿਨ ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਖੁਦ 'ਚੋਂ ਨਿਕਲਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ। ਈਵਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹਨਗੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜਾ ਅਮਰਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਮੁੱਖ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਹਨਗੇ। ਮੇਰੀ ਉੱਦਾਂ ਲੜਾਈ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਰਹਿੰਦੀ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹ ਅੱਡ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਵਾਰਤਾ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਲਮ ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਉਹ ਸਾਕਸ਼ਰ ਹਨਗੇ। ਭਾਵੇਂ ਸੰਵਾਦ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਸੀ, ਜਿੰਨਾ ਉਹ ਇਹ ਲੋਕ ਆਪ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਸਨ। ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦਾ ਨੁਕਸਾਨ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਸਿਆਸਤ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਨਕਾਰਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ, ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਗਿਰੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ, ਬਹੁਤ ਡੀਕੰਪੋਜ਼ਡ ਹੈ, ਬਦਬੂ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੀ ਸਿਆਸਤ 'ਚੋਂ ਆਬਾਦੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿਖਦੀ ਪਈ। ਉਹ ਜਦੋਂ ਕਲਚਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਵਿਰਸਾ ਸੂਖਮ ਅਤੇ ਸਥੂਲ ਜਦੋਂ ਖਿਲੇ, ਉਹ ਲੱਛਣ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਜਿਵੇਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੋ ਨਾ, ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਾਗ ਹੋਵੇ, ਉਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਮੀਂਹ ਨਾ ਆਵੇ ਅਤੇ ਮੁਰਝਾ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਕੁਮਲਾ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਹੈ ਸਾਡਾ ਪੰਜਾਬ। ਬਾਸਾ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਹੈ ਸਾਡਾ, ਵਸਦਾ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ, ਬਾਸਾ ਹੈ। ਵਸ ਚੁੱਕਿਆ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਪੰਜਾਬ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਭਵਿੱਖ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਉੱਥੇ, ਜ਼ਿੰਦਾ ਲਾਸ਼ਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਦੇ 'ਚੋਂ। ਉਹ ਫੁੱਲ ਨੇ ਪਰ ਖੁਸ਼ਬੂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ, ਫਲ ਨੇ ਪਰ ਰਸ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ, ਪੇੜ ਹਨ ਕੇ ਪੱਤੇ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ, ਆਕਾਸ਼ ਹੈ ਹਵਾਵਾਂ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ, ਨਾ ਕਿਤੋਂ ਆਉਣਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ, ਨਾ ਕਿਤੋਂ ਜਾਣਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ, ਕੋਈ ਵਾਰਤਾ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ, ਕੋਈ ਸੰਵਾਦ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ। ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੱਭਿਅਤਾ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ? ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਸੱਭਿਅਤਾ ਦਾ ਲੱਛਣ ਹੈ, ਨਾ ਸੱਭਿਅਕ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਲੱਛਣ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਦੋਸਤੋ। ਇਹ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ 'ਚ ਵੱਡੇ ਸਵਾਲ ਹਨ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੇਖਣੇ ਪੈਣਗੇ। ਕੀ ਸਿਰਫ ਸੜਕਾਂ ਬਣਾ ਲੈਣੀਆਂ ਇੱਕ ਕੌਮ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਹਸਪਤਾਲ ਜਾਂ ਕਾਲਜ ਸਕੂਲ ਬਣਾ ਲੈਣੇ, ਫੈਕਟਰੀਆਂ ਲਾਈ ਜਾਓ, ਨੌਕਰ ਬਣਾਈ ਜਾਓ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਕੰਪਨੀ 'ਚ ਨੌਕਰੀ ਲੱਗ ਗਈ। ਉਹ ਪੰਜਾਬੀਅਤ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਗਈ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ? ਉਹ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਕੌਮ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਗਈ ਜਿਹਨੇ ਸਾਰਾ ਹਿੰਦੁਸਤਾਨ ਸ਼ਾਗਿਰਦ ਹੈ ਸਾਡੀ ਕੌਮ ਦਾ। ਸ਼ਾਸਤਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗਾਂ ਨੇ ਲਿਖੇ, ਬਾਣੀਆਂ ਲਿਖੀਆਂ, ਕੌਲ ਲਿਖੇ, ਸਾਰੇ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਝੂਠਾਂ ਮਾਰ ਲੋਕੀ ਆਫਰੇ ਫਿਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਤੇ ਹੈਂਕੜ ਜਮਾਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਦੱਸੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਗਏ ਗੁਜ਼ਰੇ ਹਾਂ? ਲਾਹਨਤ ਸਾਡੇ ਤੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਆ ਵਰਤਮਾਨ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਤੇ ਲਾਹਨਤ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਲਾਇਕ ਔਲਾਦ ਹਾਂ ਵੱਡਿਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ, ਦੇਵੀਆਂ ਦੇਵਤਿਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਲਾਇਕ ਜ਼ਾਹਿਲ ਔਲਾਦਾਂ ਹਾਂਗੇ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਚਿੰਤਨ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਦੋਸਤੋ। ਸਵਾਲ ਸਾਡੇ ਤੇ ਹਨਗੇ ਚਿੰਨ੍ਹ ਔਰ ਪਰ ਮੌਕੇ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਝੋਲੀ ਹਨਗੇ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਰੋਣਾ ਵੀ ਡੋਂਟ ਕਰਾਈ ਔਰ ਸਪਿਲਡ ਮਿਲਕ, ਰਾਈਟ? ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਰੋਂਦਾ ਭਾਈ, ਸਬਕ ਲੈਣਾ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮੇਰੀ ਆਸ਼ਕੀ ਵਰਤਮਾਨ ਦੇ ਪਲ ਨਾਲ ਹੈ। ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬੀਤ ਗਿਆ ਨਾ ਹੁਣੇ ਉਹ ਮੈਂ ਦੇਖਦਾ, ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖਦਾ, ਭੁੱਲਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ। ਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਚਮੜੀ ਉਧੇੜਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਰਹੇ ਰੱਬ ਦਾ ਨਾਂ, ਰੱਬ ਵੀ ਆ ਕੇ ਦੇਖਦਾ ਕਿ ਆਹ ਬੱਬਿਆ ਸੱਸਿਆ ਯਾਨੀ ਭਾਈ ਬਲਦੀਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਕਿਆ ਚਮੜੀ ਉਧੇੜੀ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਮੇਰੇ ਸਾਰਕਾਜ਼ਮ ਤੋਂ ਉਹ ਵਾਕਫ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਮੇਰੀ ਸ਼ਰਾਰਤ ਤੋਂ ਵਾਕਫ ਹੈ। ਲੇਕਿਨ ਮੇਰੀ ਆਸ਼ਕੀ ਭਵਿੱਖ ਨਾਲ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮਾੜੇ ਤੋਂ ਮਾੜਾ ਬੰਦਾ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਉਹ ਜੋ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਉਹਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਗੁਜ਼ਰ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈ। ਅਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਕੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਨਵੈਸਟ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਸੂਖਮ ਤੇ ਸਥੂਲ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੁਝ ਬੀਜ ਬੋ ਜਾਈਏ, ਕੁਝ ਬਾਗੀ ਲੋਕ ਜੰਮਣ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਕਾਸ਼ ਵੀ ਘੁੰਡ ਪਾਉਣ ਕਿ ਯਾਰ ਇੰਨੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਜ਼ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਹਾਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੇ। ਆਕਾਸ਼ ਘਬਰਾ ਜਾਣ, ਸੂਰਜ ਸ਼ਰਮਾ ਜਾਏ ਕਿ ਯਾਰ ਆਹ ਲਓ ਦੇਖੀ ਹੈ ਆਹ ਹੈ ਰੇਡੀਅੰਸ, ਮੈਂ ਕੀ ਹਾਂ ਬਲਦਾ ਖੱਪ ਗਿਆ, ਪਰ ਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਜੇ ਉਹ ਜੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੋਸਤੋ, ਉਹ ਹੈ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸਭਿਅਤਾ ਜਿਸਨੇ ਕਿੰਨਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਨਸਪਾਇਰ ਕੀਤਾ। ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਮੌਤਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਨਸਪਾਇਰ ਕੀਤਾ, ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਇਨਸਪਾਇਰ ਕੀਤਾ, ਸਾਡੀ ਤਾਂ ਖੰਘਾਂ ਥੁੱਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਿਵਲਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਜਣ ਦਿੱਤੀਆਂ। ਜਿੱਥੇ ਹੱਗਣ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਚੱਜ ਹੈ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਆਰਟ ਆਫ ਡੈਫਿਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਵੀ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਅਕਸਰ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਸਭਿਅਤਾ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਕੀ ਹੈ। ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਉਹ ਮੇਰੇ 'ਤੇ ਕਈ ਲੋਕ ਇਲਜ਼ਾਮ ਲਾਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸੁਪਰੀਮੇਸਿਸਟ ਹੈਗਾ। ਉਹ ਸੁਪਰੀਮੇਸਿਸਟ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਯਾਰ? ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਰਾਬਰੀ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਕਰ ਲਓ ਪਰ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਹਰਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੇ। ਮੈਂ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਯੋਧਾ, ਅਤੇ ਮੇਰੀ ਕੋਈ ਇੱਛਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਮੇਰੇ ਤੋਂ ਥੱਲੇ ਕੌਣ ਹੈ। ਨਾ, ਬਰਾਬਰੀ ਹੈ। ਜੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਤੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੰਨਾ ਰੱਤੀ ਭਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗਾਂਹ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੋ, ਮੈਂ ਰੱਬ ਦੀ ਧੌਣ ਫੜਦਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਖਾਸ ਜਣਿਆ ਬਈ, ਇਹ ਕੋਈ ਖਾਸ ਮਿਜ਼ਾਜ ਜੰਮਿਆ ਸੀ, ਇੱਦਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਚਿੰਤਕ ਬਣ ਕੇ ਦੋਸਤੋ ਚਖੋ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਿਰਸਾ, ਚਖੋ ਕੋਈ ਭਾਸ਼ਾ, ਚਖੋ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਚਿੱਤਰਕਲਾ, ਚਖੋ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਤਸਵੀਰ ਖਿੱਚੀ ਹੋਈ, ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਫਰੇਮ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੋਈ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਚਖੋ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਕੀ ਜਿਲਦਬੱਧ ਕਰ ਗਿਆ। ਉਹ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਕਲਮ ਕੋਈ ਅੱਖਰ ਉੱਕਰ ਗਈ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਚਖੋ, ਉਹਦੇ ਅੱਖਰ ਨੂੰ ਦਸਤਕ ਕਰ ਜਗਾਓ ਕਿ ਹੇ ਅੱਖਰ ਜਾਗ, ਡੁਬੋ ਜਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਅਰਥ ਵਿੱਚ, ਆਪਣੀ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨਗੀ 'ਚ, ਆਪਣੀ ਪਰਵਾਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬਸ ਮਾਰ ਜਾ। ਇਹ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕਰਿਆ ਕਰੋ ਦੋਸਤੋ, ਇਹ ਚਾਹਿਆ ਕਰੋ। ਨਹੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਸੂਨਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਆਬਾਦੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ, ਲੋਕ ਹੈਨਗੇ ਪਰ ਹੈਨਗੇ ਨਹੀਂ। ਸੋ ਦੋਸਤੋ, ਐਨੀਵੇ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਐਵੇਂ ਮੈਂ ਯਬਲੀਆਂ ਜੀ ਮਾਰਨ ਨਾ ਲੱਗ ਜਾ। So I'll see you tomorrow at what was the time? ਰਜ਼ਾ ਅਲੀ ਭਾਈ, ਮੈਂ ਸਮਾਂ ਹੀ ਭੁੱਲ ਗਿਆ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ। 4:30 ਵਜੇ ਸ਼ਾਮੀ। ਸੋ 4:30 ਵਜੇ याद रखियो दोस्तों, we will meet one of the finest exponents of the Patiala Gharana, who also represents very proudly his family tradition of Kasur. Ustad Raza Ali Khan was the son of the legendary Ustad Munawwar Ali Khan. I knew so many, Pramila Puri, I know Manjeet KJ Singh, who studied with Ustad Munawwar Ali Khan, very, very closely associated. I know so many who were sort of just extraordinary admirers of the legend of Ustad Munawwar Ali Khan, the grandson of Ustad Badi Ali Khan, the grandnephew of Ustad Barkat Ali Khan. I can go on and on and on. And it'll be my pleasure to be in conversation with my brother, Ustad Raza Ali Khan, tomorrow. So kindly take note, 4:30 p.m. dosto. And we will see you then. And until then, be bad, be naughty, be full of life. But it's time to sleep now. So be good people, sleep some, don't be like me. And I'll see you tomorrow at 4:30. Sat Kartar, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh, Khuda Hafiz, Khatti Mithi Namaskar. Buonanotte and a goodbye.